How is everybody doing? Happy February 3rd. It is Monday. It is February 3rd, Monday. Today, in case anybody was curious, there's a lot going on today, obviously, when it comes to, Mexico and Canada and tariffs and the left people, the people on the left losing their ever-loving mind about changes that Donald Trump is making when it comes to their money that they're, siphoning into their pockets, all kinds of issues. But today is the 2-year anniversary of the Norfolk Southern train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. If you guys have been part of SquirrelTribe for that long, you will remember how we went in on the East Palestine, Ohio issue, because everything that was going on with Norfolk Southern and that train derailment, and then everything that was going on with the powers that be in Ohio, nothing was adding up. Nothing was making sense. The world saw how our government at the time, that would be Joe Biden, basically did nothing to help the people of East Palestine, Ohio in a moment of crisis. Like, it was a legit crisis. And I just want to point out and remind everybody, because over time people do seem to forget that this is what happened. I'm just going to bring it to you exactly how it happened. Then I want you to see J.D. Vance, who was Senator J.D. Vance at the time of this train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, and now he's VP Vance, and he's back home in East Palestine, Ohio to talk to the people there. But here's what happened, because over time, and even then, it was twisted and said incorrectly. There's news articles coming out today on the anniversary of this, and they're talking about how, Norfolk Southern and their train explosion and all this other stuff, and that is not exactly what happened. Pete Buttigieg was the transportation guy. You had the EPA guy there, and I don't remember his name, a black man that was head of the EPA at the time, or part of the EPA for that area, and all of them failed the people of East Palestine, Ohio and surrounding areas, because the plume of smoke that went up into that sky did not only affect East Palestine, Ohio, it went out numerous states. I think 16 states got some sort of the chemical byproduct of everything that occurred there. But I need people to remember, because I refuse to let people think this is all Norfolk Southern's fault. The initial derailment of their train was 100% Norfolk Southern's fault, because they have people, they're based out of Atlanta, by the way. That's where their headquarters are. And they have people who are supposed to check on the bearings on the trains and do all these other things. And one of the bearings overheated and caught fire, and it wasn't checked on, and they kept it rolling. The next thing you know, there's a derailment. Here's the problem. Here's what the problem was then, and the problem is today, and the problem will still be in 3 or 4 years, is the fact that the people who ultimately put the people of East Palestine, Ohio, and surrounding states in actual physical jeopardy was not Norfolk Southern. It was not the EPA. It was Mike DeWine and the fire chief at the time in East Palestine, Ohio. And people, the mainstream media keeps covering it up or stating it differently, but here's what happened. This train derailed. They were carrying numerous cars of vinyl chloride, 11 cars, I believe, of vinyl chloride. One of them, they were worried about it was going to explode because of the pressure and the heat from the fire that had occurred. Well, the fire chief, and talking with people from Norfolk Southern, they decided to kind of clear out the area around the car that they thought was going to explode. But then between the fire chief and Mike DeWine, Governor Mike DeWine, they decided what they were going to do would be to pour out the vinyl chloride from one of these cars. And not just one of these cars. They were worried that one would explode and it would take out 11 tankers. So they decided they were going to release numerous tankers into the ground, okay? They dug out trenches around where these rail cars had gone off the tracks. They dug out trenches, and they willingly, knowingly, they did, without the help of the EPA or the direction of the EPA, without the help or direction of Norfolk Southern or anybody who had any idea, without the help or direction of the CDC, the fire chief and Governor Mike DeWine decided they thought that it would be a good idea to let the chemicals leak down onto the ground so that they wouldn't have an explosion of the rail cars. Here's the thing, though. They did not bother to see how the temperature, because there was snow and it was cold at the time, and how that temperature was working against the fire and was actually calming down the possibility for explosion on the vinyl chloride in that one tanker car that they were worried about. They didn't do any of that. They didn't have anybody come out and test anything, none of that stuff. So they released the chemicals into the ground of this vinyl chloride. And then subsequently, between Mike DeWine and the fire chief, they set it on fire. They are the ones who set it on fire, yet they're holding Norfolk Southern responsible for the train derailment. Although, if you want to get to the actual nitty-gritty of it and the part that matters the most, everything that is happening to these people health-wise is because of Mike DeWine and the fire chief at the time, who between the two of them again decided to release the vinyl chloride into the ground and subsequently set it on fire, which then had that big Hiroshima looking mushroom cloud of black smoke and that went states and states around. But Norfolk Southern has paid out millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to East Palestine, Ohio. CDC has been there forever and a day. The EPA was there forever and a day. All kinds of money has gone to East Palestine, Ohio, which they deserve. I'm not saying the people there don't deserve it. And now today they are, I think it was today or yesterday, maybe it was yesterday, I don't know. They said that 7 people have died since East Palestine, Ohio, since the train derailment, and they're blaming it on the chemicals that were leaked into the soil, into the water, into the air. It was all over everybody's housing. And again, it was absolutely horrific, and it's going to continue to be horrific because you never know the long-term effect of breathing all of that stuff in. And as much as they cleaned out the waterways and they dug up the soil, you guys remember, if you've been here for a while, they took that soil into Texas. They took that soil to Illinois. They took that soil to numerous places. They took that water that they had siphoned out of the rivers there, and I think there was a lake, but definitely the rivers, the water from when they were trying to put out the fire, all this chemical filled stuff, and put it in tanks in Texas and in, I don't remember where because it has been 2 years, but they tried to take the water, the runoff water from trying to put out the fire and put out all the, and wash off all the chemicals. They tried to take that water to a bottling plant to have them distill it, and then that water would have gone into bottled water. Y'all, there was a lot that happened. There's an East Palestine playlist on here on YouTube. You guys might want to go check it out from, like I said, 2 years ago if you want more information, because I do believe at the time I was the only channel that was really digging into what was going on with the train derailment. Nobody was talking about it. And I was like, why is nobody talking about this? This is a huge deal. Not only for the fact of what Norfolk Southern allowed to happen with, this was at the time when Joe Biden was not letting the rail people strike, and you had people who were overworked. You had people who were companies. They were like, well, instead of having 3 people on a train, we're only going to have 1. We're going to use automated this, automated that. And then we were seeing derailments left and right. The one in East Palestine, Ohio just happened to be the worst of the worst. Numerous other train derailments happened around the country, whether it was Norfolk Southern. There was Union Pacific one. There was a CSX. Now my brain can't remember all the different names of everything because it's been a couple years since we really dove into the trains. But there was a lot of issues, right? And so today you have J.D. Vance back in East Palestine, Ohio. He was there when it happened. He was he was a senator there. So he went to East Palestine, Ohio. The president at the time, Joe Biden, didn't bother to go to East Palestine, Ohio until after a year after it had happened, because he knew that it was not a safe area to be in. Donald Trump went long before Joe Biden ever did. He took bottled water. He took all kinds of things. He met with the residents of East Palestine, Ohio. Even then, he was not the president, and he was doing presidential things when our sitting president at the time couldn't be bothered to wake up from his nap to do anything presidential, right? But this is J.D. Vance today in East Palestine. It was around 11 a.m. this morning Pacific time, and I just want you guys to hear what he had to say regarding all of this.
The president loves this community. Of course, he visited himself personally, and President Trump just wanted to deliver a message that this community will not be forgotten, will not be left behind, and we are in it for the long haul in East Palestine. What does that mean? Well, one thing it means is that, of course, the environmental cleanup has to get done. It's a tragedy and a shame that it wasn't done during the last administration, but I guarantee we're going to finish the cleanup during this administration under the great leadership of Lee Zeldin, our new EP administrator who stands behind me. And I also think that part of that means the long-term economic development of this community. We know that a lot of local businesses and a lot of local people lost a lot when that train disaster happened a couple of years ago. We are committed not just to finishing the environmental side of the cleanup, but hopefully seeing East Palestine build back better and stronger and more prosperous than it was before this disaster happened in the first place.
So what's crazy is, if you guys do remember, after this happened, the EPA moved in and the CDC moved in and everything else, and they set up like town hall meetings and they set up all these other things, and you had to go in and basically let them do like a full body workup to make sure that you were actually sick, and you had to go in there and prove that you were having any sort of chemical reaction to anything. Like, it was a big deal to me at the time. But what was crazy is right before that, y'all, again, I know this is old, but it's still something that drives me up a wall. Right before that, a month before this train derailment, East Palestine, Ohio, a small village, because it's a village or a township. Which one was it? Village or township? It's not considered a city. It's not considered a municipality. It's not considered a whatever. I want to go with the word village, but I feel like township is right. And I can't remember exactly what it was at the time. It might be something different now, but they were small, not a lot of people there, not a lot of money there, yet for some reason the whole city or whatever of East Palestine, Ohio was given this thing called My ID. It was a bracelet that everybody was supposed to wear, and on this bracelet they were supposed to upload all of their medical information, every single bit of medical information, and that way anytime you went to the doctor they could scan your bracelet, pull it up, and anytime something changed it would update in the system and then it would be in your bracelet. In East Palestine, Ohio, 1 month before this derailment, where somebody just decided to let a train keep going even though there was nobody checked the bearings, even though there was an overheated bearing, they could see it was overheated, they didn't stop the train. Then this train does happen to derail weirdly in East Palestine, Ohio, and then weirdly the fire chief and the governor decide to set that shit on fire. Again, that's when the conspiracy theory stuff for me started, because I was like, the timing, because since then $660 million has gone towards East Palestine, Ohio and the people around it. And that money has been used to revamp an entire city that never would have had any money given to it whatsoever for any reason, right? And it just happens to be right on the border of Pennsylvania. And the train was on its way to the new Shell station that had just been built in Pennsylvania, in Beaver County, Pennsylvania. And people were saying that that Shell station, Beaver County, Pennsylvania, that Shell station was making a ton of people sick. And I have said, and I still think from day one, that there's something nefarious going on with the whole thing, where this whole entire purposeful release of the vinyl chloride into the ground and the intentional setting on fire of the vinyl chloride is something that the Shell company, my personal opinion here, paid off to do, so that the fact that they were making so many people sick with their water runoff and everything else from their petroleum company wouldn't be noticed. That now everything could be blamed on Norfolk Southern and nobody's looking at Shell anymore. That has always been my thought process on that, because everything pointed to me, that it was a unbelievable coincidence on how everything happened. So that's that. Okay. But anyway, this was JD Vance in East Palestine in 2023, when he was just Senator JD Vance, and he's at the water, telling you there's fish that are dead and all kinds of stuff going on. It was not a good time there. And on top of that, where is the other one? Hold on, I have more. Wait, don't go anywhere. I just saved this one. This is what it looked like. I just want to remind everybody, the picture, this is a Spanish article, ignore that part, but this is the derailment, and that is the small fire that had started. That's not the small fire. There were two small fires that had already started before the DeWine and the fire chief came through, dug out the trenches, and set a much larger fire for these vinyl chloride cars. It's just, that to me is something that will always be where my eyes opened even more to how dirty our government is, how much they care about their money versus the people, how a sitting president could give zero craps about their own citizens. all kinds of stuff. Just it was crazy to me how that occurred, and Joe Biden did nothing about it. Now this is the new EPA leader, Lee Zeldin, and I cannot remember that other guy's name. Black gentleman, I want to say Mike something, but maybe that's wrong. But this is the new EPA guy that has been appointed since Trump got into office, and I'm really hoping that he will be better at doing his job than the last guy was. But here's what he had to say today.
I was just sworn in middle of last week, and as soon as I was sworn in, I instantly heard from the vice president's office saying that your first order of business right away, your first trip, we're going to East Palestine. As someone who was watching this disaster strike 2 years ago, from somebody who was watching from out of state, I saw then Senator Vance go to this site and lead, to be a voice for people looking for leadership from all levels of government. It educated the rest of us around America what was going on, and it motivated all of us to want to be able to do our part now, knowing this tragedy and what it meant for this community. I know how much of a priority that this is for Vice President Vance, and because it is such a high priority for him, I will make sure that for the EPA, it is our highest priority, day in, day out, doing everything.
Now, there's other obvious things that have happened since East Palestine, Ohio, that the EPA needs to also pay attention to. But what happened in East Palestine, Ohio was absolutely horrific. It is the 2-year anniversary of it. There are more people that are coming forward. It is always weird to me, I'm not even gonna lie, when people decide to put out, when they decide to sue somebody right at the anniversary of something. It feels like weird timing to me, like you're just doing it for the money as opposed to there was actually something wrong with you or whatever else. But also I do know that around an anniversary time, there's more eyes on it. So maybe you get more traction that way and more people will discuss it. So like I said, they're saying it's the stupid friggin' phone, y'all. Look, it's the stupid friggin' phone, y'all. Look, I don't know once this goes up after it's live if everybody can see the lag or the delay or the whatever. But for those of you who are watching this later after the live stream, it's this stupid fucking phone. iPhones are trash. Oh my gosh, Android only. I hate this iPhone. I had Android. We got the iPhone to make it easier to stay in touch with my daughter and my husband. That way we're all on the same thing. It's easier to airdrop from the phone to the computer since we are in, you know, media or whatever than trying to upload stuff. I hate this phone. It's fine. Can you guys hear me again now? And I have it on Do Not Disturb. I have it on every possible form of Do Not Disturb possible. And the phone calls still come through. Y'all are lucky that the violence in me is tame, because I want to throw this phone into oncoming traffic and just watch every car run it over. Okay, back to where we were talking about East Palestine, Ohio. Y'all, I don't know. I just absolutely hate it. Android only. I don't know what this iPhone is all about. We've tried everything and it sucks. It is absolute trash. Don't get an iPhone. Whoever designed the 16 Pro Max, y'all are stupid because you obviously effed it up, because they shouldn't be doing this. Anyway, okay, we're done with East Palestine, Ohio. Let's move on away from East Palestine, Ohio. Let's move over to the fact that, and forgive me, this is big dick energy. Just so we're all fully aware. In case y'all don't know what that is, that's that. That is daddy, zaddy, whatever, big dick energy vibes right there. Nobody's gonna look at these two men and think soy boy or pushover or, you know, libtard. You look at these men, any of these men in this room, but definitely Tom Homan and Seth, come on, brain. Seth Heg, my brain can't do it. No, something Heg. Gosh, Pete Hegseth. I'm having dyslexia all day over here. You look at those two and you're like, okay, I get it, right? Okay, anyway, there was no point to that. I just saw that picture and my brain said BDE, big dick energy. Let's continue on. For those of you who aren't aware of everything that is going on, let me just remind you, this is something that Donald Trump put out a little while ago, not today, I believe yesterday, although it's supposed to kick in today at midnight, I believe. The tariffs. Let's talk about the tariffs. The tariffs that Donald Trump was going to place on Canada and Mexico. And the real reason why he was placing tariffs on Canada and Mexico, because they've been taking advantage of this country forever, and this country, you know, allows it and whatever else. We don't need to get all of our shit from Canada and Mexico. They rely on us more than we rely on them. We can make things here in this country. We have very smart people in this country. So Donald Trump puts up, this is Donald Trump. He said, hello. Fat fingers again. Today, I have implemented a 25% tariff on imports from Mexico and Canada, 10% on Canadian energy, and a 10% additional tariff on China. This was done through the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, the IEEPA, because of the major threat of illegal aliens and deadly drugs killing our citizens, including fentanyl. We need to protect Americans, and it is my duty as president to ensure the safety of all. I made a promise on my campaign to stop the flood of illegal aliens and drugs from pouring across our borders, and Americans overwhelmingly voted in favor for it. This is what we voted for. I will gladly pay a little bit more for something that comes from Canada or Mexico if I have to, but more than likely, I'm going to do everything in my power to find the opposite version of it here in the United States of America. You know what I don't need? Canadian bacon. That's just ham. Bro, just go buy ham and cut it in a circle. It's the same damn thing. You want some syrup? Guess who has really good syrup? Vermont. You can go get your syrup from Vermont. We don't need it from Canada. You want some avocados? Oh my gosh, have you had Californian avocados? So good. You don't need them from Mexico. So many things we do not need. The entire reason that Donald Trump is doing this is not only because of the money situation, but the open borders and fentanyl situation. Canada, Trudeau, is such a pushover wussy with a P, and he is absolute trash. I could have sworn he said he was going to step down, and here he is still trying to destroy his country. I'm not quite sure why, but they have a very lax open border policy. They have a ton of students coming in from other countries, from India, from the UK, from all over the place. They get into Canada via these student visas or whatever it is they call them up there, and then they never show up to school, and the next thing you know, they're here in the United States. They're just coming through the border. Now, some of that, I'm not even going to lie, some of it is on the US as well. I've been into Canada. We drove up into Canada and we drove back from Canada. Let me explain to you what driving into Canada is like. Canada does not want you in there. A black man, a white woman, a mixed child, and in a Porsche. Is that what we were in when we went? We weren't in the van. Yeah, we were in my husband's Macan. We get to the Canadian border, and the guy there is asking questions, and of course we're answering questions. He's like, are you bringing anything in? And I was like, well, I have a bottle of champagne in the back because I was about to do a mimosa Monday for SquirrelTribe 2.0. So I was like, I have a bottle of mimosa. And my husband's like, quit talking, say nothing, say less, you're talking too much. And I was like, I don't know how to not talk too much. Like, it's kind of part of my DNA. So I'm answering all the questions, and the next thing you know, they decide to make us go into their little warehouse and tear our car apart and make us sit off to the side and whatever else. Literally no clue why. Made absolutely no sense. But after they went through everything, pulled everything out of our bags, pulled like the seats apart, the car apart, everything, they let us go. And I was like, well, that was intrusive for no apparent reason. Okay, whatever. Then on our way back out, we get to the border of, leaving Canada to get into the US, and the US side goes, you bringing anything? And I was like, nah. And he's like, cool. And we left. That was it. And I was like, that felt way too easy to get into the United States. Again, this was during the Biden administration, though. I feel like now under Trump administration, there's probably a few more questions you have to go through to get back into the US. But I was very surprised at how difficult it was and how intrusive it was to get into Canada, given the fact that once we got to where we were going, y'all, we went to Winnipeg, Canada first. The amount of homelessness that I saw in just this one small little section that we were staying in, I was like, this is not what I expected Canada to be at all. Then we went to a Costco, and the Costco was not what I expected at all. Then we ended up in Regina, whatever you call it, and that place was gross. We left there after one night. We had a night booked for 2 nights, and we were like, not staying here. This doesn't feel safe. So we left after one night. It ended up in Moose Jaw, which was cool as shit. I've already told y'all the Al Capone underground tunnels, one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life. And then we came back. We were like, we're not going to stay here anymore. But the problem is, I got off track because squirrel. The people get into Canada and then they just come into the U.S. And so we have to put a little bit of that blame on the people at the U.S. border who are just like, nah, come on through. Why? You just letting anybody through? But obviously the people are finding other ways to get in. But the thing is, you have drugs coming over the borders with these people. Not only are you bringing in illegal immigrants coming in, they're bringing drugs with them. They're bringing other things with them, diseases, honestly. We've had a massive uptick in a lot of stuff since these open borders over the last 4 years, Biden administration. There's been a lot of issues. So Donald Trump is saying, keep your borders closed. Mexico, do a better job. Keep people in your country. Don't, basically walk them to our border because they're crossing over with drugs, they're crossing over with disease, they're crossing over and they're, some of them are horrible humans. And same thing from Canada. And so the easiest way to get people to act accordingly is to fuck with their money. That's what it comes down to every single time. People will they'll continue being crappy people until you start to mess with money. It will always come down to money. So he says, okay, here's what we're going to do. You don't want to stop people from coming through. You don't want to stop the drugs from coming into the U.S. Here's what we're going to do. Every single thing that you want to import into the U.S., we're going to put a 25% tariff on it. Here's the problem for Canada. Canada, most of their stuff that they ship out is shipped here to the U.S. I think about 60% of the stuff. That it's like, I think the guy that I watched said it's 40% of their GDP or G, whatever those three letters are that I can't think of right now. If Trump imposes this tariff, it is going to hurt Canada immensely. People will lose their jobs by the thousands. Is that a Trump fault? No, that's on Trudeau for not doing what is necessary to ensure that his country isn't hit with 25% tariffs. So Donald Trump says we're going to hit everybody for these tariffs. And Mexico, who's been talking shit like crazy, yeah, GDP, gross domestic produce, thank you. Blah, blah, blah. Mexico, the lady there has been talking shit for like the longest. And Trump goes, hey, we're going to put these tariffs in. And then the lady from Mexico today goes, hold on, wait a second. Let's talk before this really kicks into gear. Let's have a conversation. So then Donald Trump posts, I just spoke with President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico. It was a very friendly conversation wherein she agreed to immediately supply 10,000 Mexican soldiers on the border separating Mexico and the United States. These soldiers will be specifically designated to stop the flow of fentanyl and illegal immigrants into our country. We further agreed to immediately pause the anticipated tariffs for a 1-month period, during which we will have negotiations headed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent, and Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, and high-level representatives of Mexico. I look forward to participating in those negotiations with President Sheinbaum as we attempt to achieve a deal between our two countries. Again, that's what happens. Our president, who has balls of steel or golden balls or whatever you want to call them, he's got some cojones, and Mexico obviously realized that. He said, this is what's going to happen and we're not going to back down. You either have to step up or you have to back down or whatever else. And Canada backed down. Justin Trudeau, unless he is trying to destroy Canada on his way out, pull a Biden, he will also back down, because at the end of the day, they are not. Your ego is your ego. You can't have an ego like that when you are running a country. Do I think President Trump has an ego? Of course I do. It's why I told you guys also in the beginning, I was not a fan of President Trump in 2016 to 2020. I wasn't a huge fan because I didn't know any better. I was a effing libtard and I listened to mainstream media and didn't make up my own mind. I thought, look, listen to this man with this ego and he doesn't care about anything but himself and blah, 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 blah. No, that is not the case. Yes, he has an ego, but he's earned it. There's a difference between having an ego and pride and it being non-warranted versus knowing what you're doing, knowing that what you are trying to do is what is best for the country, not even just yours, but the other countries, and sticking to it, right? That is an ego and whatever that I'm okay with personally. So Donald Trump, he says these are the tariffs, and he sits back like the Godfather, I guess, which I've never seen. So I don't know if that's a good comparison or not. I've never seen the Godfather. All I know is take him to the mattress. That but that's from You've Got Mail. Anyway, so he does this, and Mexico immediately goes, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do what you say. And not only is it we're going to do what you say, but Donald Trump says, I'm going to put you on a probationary period of no tariffs for a month. And after that probationary period of no tariffs for a month, if you have not held up your end of the bargain with 10,000 soldiers, stopping the fentanyl, stopping the illegals crossing the border, I'm going to hit your ass with those tariffs immediately. This is probationary period. It wasn't just okay, never mind. You said you'll do it, so I believe you'll do it, and then everybody goes their separate ways. There will be eyes on the border. There's already eyes on the border. The amount of people who have been sent down to the border in order to keep the border safe has been absolutely ridiculous. Hold on, no. There's one more thing that I saw. I saved it. How did I save it? Where did I save it? I did save it. Wait. It's from Greg Abbott in Texas. Oh, where did I save it? No, there's so much. There's way too much going on. But I saved this thing from Abbott that he posted. Ugh, Kanye West, what trash. No. Today, the phone call with Trump and Trudeau should be happening right about now or an hour ago. I don't know. They said 3 p.m. That's all I remember. No, I know I saved it, but I can't find it now. So Governor Abbott said that he is making, maybe you guys know, he said that he is giving regular police officers, I think this is correct, the authority to act as ICE. Something like that. He's giving his police officers the authority to act as ICE so that they can also arrest illegal immigrants for deportation if they come across them, which is absolutely huge because there's only so many ICE agents around, right? ICE, baby. There's only so many of them around. So to have Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, say, we're going to make it even easier and make sure that we can get as many people as possible. I'm going to let the police force have temporary ICE power. Oh, come on. I know I saved it. This is going to bother me, y'all. I have way too many clips here. That's why. But no. What's crazy, y'all, is, look, this is MSNBC talking about how the tariffs will likely be far larger than any of us can calculate, blah, blah, blah. This was MSNBC before the Mexican president backed down. I just want you to hear just a little bit of this because it's funny to me.
Consumers will suffer exactly, or be inflation. But, Molly, let's just put to the side the moral concerns. There are grave moral concerns about what's happening with U.S. aid. But let's just talk strategy for a second on two things. One, or three things. I'll go three things really quickly. One, on shutting down U.S. aid. I mean, we use our U.S. aid, as I said before, to help us with soft power, to help us strategically, to help us chase down Al-Qaeda, to help us get insight and intel on ISIS, on what China's doing on the continent. You look at the FBI, a purge inside of the FBI. Who's cheering that? Al-Qaeda, ISIS, drug gangs, China, Russia, spies that are going to be able to run rampant in the United States because they're looking inward and starting a war there. And finally, on these tariffs, listen, you don't have to be smart in economics to know. This pushes the EU.
25% tariffs.
This pushes the EU. This pushes Canada. This pushes Mexico into the arms of China. And say, okay, well, if the United States is going to do this, let's figure out how to deal more with China. So all of these seem to help those who consider the United States an enemy.
Well, these are the unintended consequences, right? I mean, part of this was, and that's the thing I think that a lot of us should be the most worried about, are the unintended consequences here. Look, the intention here was always to strip down the federal government. They wrote about it in Project 2025, to remove nonpartisan government actors and replace them with loyalists. That was always the play, right? To strip it down to the studs, to do what Elon did with X to the federal government. And that's what we're witnessing in real time.
Look, I can't listen to her voice anymore. When she said to do what Elon Musk did with X. Do y'all remember when X was Twitter? Do you remember when it was Twitter? And then they had way too many people there and it was spending a ton of money it didn't need to spend. And so Elon Musk bought it and then he cut the fat off of the staff. And then now X is a legit place to go for news and everything like that. She made it sound like Elon Musk did something bad for X. What she meant was that X is no longer a left-wing propaganda machine like Twitter was, and now it's literally even keel. It is 50-50. You can get both sides, just the same amount of information for both sides or people who are on both sides, and it made it much, much better, and it's a profitable platform now for him. I don't think she understands anything that she is talking about. So there's that. She's a moron. But they were talking about how the tariffs are bad, 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 and then the Mexican government gives in. If they were awful, 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 the Mexican government would not have given in, and Canada, I can guarantee you, will give in too, because they have to. They have to. Anyway, on top of that, we have, where is it? Breaking, Mexico surrenders to Trump, locks down the border, and. This is what matters. Okay, so we're talking about the energy, Canadian energy, and tariffs on it and whatever else. What's interesting is this hurts Canada more than it hurts the US when it comes to tariffs on energy. Because when Canada talks about cutting off oil to America, let me break this down for you. Because Canada has said they're just not going to give us oil, they're not going to give us energy, whatever. This is a map of the pipelines that carry energy for Canada. I'm going to show you this map. It'll be backwards, obviously, because YouTube. As you can see, many come into America. A lot of the Canadian pipelines come into America. The one you need to pay attention to is the Energy East line. This was supposed to be built, but Canada's leftists canceled it because of climate issues. So the Energy East line would have gone through Canada, wouldn't have dipped into the, or it would have dipped into the US a little, but not really, it would have stayed in Canada, right? As you can see, the only way for the western part of Canada now to get oil to the eastern part of Canada is to send it through America. Trump knows exactly what he is doing. So if you guys look here, and again, it is backwards, I apologize. You guys can see the lines there. The dotted lines is the one that was canceled. It would have stayed all through Canada. In order for any of that stuff to get from one side of Canada to the other, it must come down through the US and back up. If Trudeau wants to play chicken, guess what's not going to happen? The other side of Canada ain't going to get shit because Trump will shut it down. Y'all, it's just, I'm just saying. Then if you really want to get crazy with it, oh, I can't remember what trains it was. No, this is not going to be helpful. Two train companies merged. Kansas, crap, now I don't remember. Kansas and something else merged their train companies a year and a half, 2 years ago. And they now are the only train line that goes from inside of Canada all the way through the US and into Mexico and back up. And I cannot remember the two. Kansas City something. Geez, come on, Michelle. I don't remember the two of them. Somebody said Santa Fe. I feel like that's part of it. But I cannot remember exactly what the two were. But either way, they go from Canada through the US down into Mexico. Pacific Union and... No, I don't remember who it was. I'll figure it out later. But either way, if Trump really wanted to play hardball, he could say, cool. Your train that you're trying to get from Canada to Mexico because, you know, you guys buy and ship to each other, we're just going to hold it here in the U.S. We're not going to let it into Mexico, or they can say we're not going to let it into the U.S. because although they own the rail lines, it still has to go through our borders. So Trump could, in real actuality, say, no, it's not coming through the United States from Canada. It's not going back up to Canada through, or up to Canada from Mexico through the United States, and he could put a whole stop on it, which is, again, Trump knows exactly what he is doing. He is a businessman. Another reason why politicians hate him is because he looks at things from a business standpoint and how to get what is needed in a business sense, as opposed to, you know, how politicians do it, which is lying and promising things and doing like really shady shit. If there's this thing out now with Zelensky from Ukraine who says that he only saw about $75 billion, Kansas City Southern, that I think that is one of them, yes, who only saw about $75 billion of the almost $200 billion that the United States has sent to Ukraine. I'm sorry. That's a lot of missing money that you haven't seen there, Zelensky. Where did it go? Did it go to other officials in the Ukraine? Did it go to officials here in the U.S., into pockets of, I don't know, Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer and Biden and whoever else, Pelosi, Obama, Clinton's maybe? Where did all that money go? I've said from day one, it's a money laundering scheme because of the way that they had the, the contracts for the weapons and for everything else that was being sent to Ukraine. They were contracts that they were supposed to give to third parties, but they were giving these contracts to their own government-run military whatevers. I don't remember how to phrase all this, y'all. But either way, there's a lot of money laundering going on through the Biden administration. So you have all that going on. Now that Trump is here, there's going to be a lot of changes. Also, y'all, like I said, this is so much stuff going on. CBS News now has to give the full FCC transcript footage of Kamala Harris interview. Brain. Remember, I just realized my earrings are in the complete wrong holes because I forgot to put the hoops in, so my earrings look real stupid. Anyway, Kamala Harris, when she did her 60 Minutes interview, she told them that they couldn't, Canadian Pacific and KCS, thank you, yes, those are the two train lines. She told them when she did the interview, the 60 Minutes interview with the black guy, I don't know his name either, I always forget names, that she did not want the transcripts released. And the reason why people realized that something was wrong is because they showed one commercial with her one way, and then they show when it aired, it was a completely different setup of question and answer. And Donald Trump is like, what the hell is this? Like, why is this what you're doing? You're lying to the American people. You're altering these things. You're trying to make it seem a certain way, like she didn't say this or did say that, and that's not helpful or fair in as journalists. So Lester Holt, thank you, y'all. I love y'all. With Lester Holt, yes. So Donald Trump is like, nah, I'm gonna sue the crap out of y'all. The FCC won't let me be. Oh, that's the Eminem song. It's in my head now. He's like, the FCC is gonna release this shit because it was something that they used as a way to try to, again, rig the election. They tried to convince people that Kamala Harris knew anything and that she knew what she was talking about and whatever else. So then you have them not letting the transcripts out. You have a clearly overly edited interview. Everything was shady. So now it all has to come out, and that's going to be very interesting to see how Kamala Harris actually answered the questions before they decided to play, you know, splice and dice with the responses and edit them for that 60-minute interview. Donald Trump goes live on his interviews. He did a 3-hour thing with Joe Rogan, which was not edited at all. It was just a conversation. When Donald Trump stands up at the podium, he talks. There is no editing. Kamala Harris could never, and we know that. And at this point, it doesn't really matter, but it's the principle of it. And based off the principle of it, the FCC better release that stuff because I want to read how stupid she is. I mean, we know, but I want to see it too. And what else? And that's that. So much. Oh, here it is. I found the Greg Abbott thing. In an agreement I signed between Texas and Trump's Customs and Border Protection, the Texas National Guard is granted the power of immigration officials to make immigration arrests effective immediately. This boosts manpower for border security. I was kind of right. I said police. It's not exactly the same, but I knew what I was talking about. So you now have the Texas National Guard has been granted the power of immigration officials to make immigration arrests. Speaking of immigration arrests, there have been, you guys ready for this? So many protests over the last 24 hours against illegal immigration deportation, right? And just Mexican flags everywhere, burning of American flags, all kinds of stuff, shutting down the 101 freeway in LA, and in Salem, Oregon, I believe. Then you had one in LA, you had Texas, you had, I believe there's some, I just spit everywhere. I don't even know how that happened. Then you have video of them. Look at this stuff. I don't understand. I couldn't be a police officer. So this is the 101 freeway in LA that they have completely shut down by protesting. Do you think they got approval to do this? No. Do you think they have a permit to do this? No. What is that? Another one. So they're there. No cars can get through, no ambulances, no fire trucks, no anything can get through. You can't get your child to the hospital if they need to get there. You can't do anything because these people are protesting, right? Now, the problem here is, lots of problems, but this is in Dallas. Well, it says no embedding. I don't know what this means. This person said, F all y'all, I'm getting to where I want to go. And they drove through. They didn't hit anybody. You know, they didn't do any of that. But then the protesters decided to mob the police, like jump on the police, because the police did not stop the guy from driving through the crowd. So they decided to attack the police officers. On top of that, but wait, unfortunately, there's more. You have, this is downtown Dallas. You have the same thing. There's a bunch of people, a bunch of cars, whatever else, all the Mexican flags. And then you have, but wait, there's more. This is the LAPD riot control. They're taking on the illegal alien protests. You see them there, riot patrol, illegal aliens, all kinds of stuff. That's the LAPD. So this is in Los Angeles. Again, Mexican flags everywhere. But what is absolutely crazy, that one didn't last long. Good. Hopefully she will not call back again. So you have that. She's with my mother. My mother picked her up from school. So you have that. You have, again, the 101 freeway. Here is ground view of the ICE protests in California. All right. You see that? A lot of protesting going on. Here is a police officer who gets out of his car and he's trying to, you know, get the yellow car to move, to get people to move so cars can go through, whatever else. They don't like what's going on. Once he gets back in his car, let me just fast forward that so you guys can see what happens when he gets back in his car. This is him getting back in his car. And these people who are pushing up on him, I don't understand how this is okay and how this is allowed. And maybe that's just me. I feel like this is completely uncalled for. Does that really make them think that they're not going to get deported because they're standing around waving poster boards and flags and crowding a police car or whatever else and pissing people off by shutting down roads and freeways? No, it's just going to bring ICE over even faster because now they know where the congregation of dumbasses is. Like, hello, anyway. But y'all, here is the problem. Here's the problem. Where is this one? I saved this one because this is crazy to me. Nope, not that one. Make sure my kid's not calling again. This one here. This, look. Benny Johnson posted this earlier. No, this one isn't Benny Johnson's. They were all set to make the arrest. This is the LAPD. And then they just left. They literally just left. You still have the protesters there. You still have everything. And the police just left. They didn't arrest anybody. They didn't deport anybody. They just got in their cars and left. What? Like, what? Like, sack up, grow a pair. What are we doing here? Why are we just allowing this to happen with no consequences? You know what consequences should have had? Let me show you what consequences they should have had. This is the consequences they should have had. You want to stand around and do all this? FAFO. That is the era we are in. We are in FAFO Trump time. Why aren't we doing this? Why is this not something we are doing to combat the illegal immigrants and whoever else wants to hang out with them who are flooding the streets literally and stopping all traffic from getting through and causing chaos and whatever else? Like, why? I have questions. Why that's not what's being used. So there's that. Didn't make sense to me. Absolutely doesn't make sense. On top of that, what else do we have, y'all? There's a little bit more. There's a little bit more. There's so much more, actually. Let's just be real with it. There's so much going on right now that it's absolutely ridiculous. We could talk about the USAID headquarters and how all of it has closed, and so now you have Ilhan Omar basically crying and screaming about dictator Trump, is what she calls him, and you have this crappy dude Raskin, same thing, crying, bitching and moaning because they know that their cash cow is gone. They're so upset with Elon Musk coming in and having any say over shutting down the money, right? Their money is what it comes down to. They're not mad that Elon Musk is given the authority to do it. They're mad that it's gonna hurt their pockets. That's all these people care about. They don't care about anything else. They're over here talking about, well, what about all the other countries? They're not gonna get aid anymore. And look, I'm not an asshole, but like, why are we consistently sending so much money and weapons and military men and women to other countries? Why? We can't even take care of our own country. Why are we doing this? We have our own men and women on the streets who can't afford a place to live. We have senior citizens who can barely afford to live because their social security is not keeping up with the cost of living increases and stuff. The COLA increase, nothing goes together. That's their money. Social security is their effing money, and you're holding it hostage and like it's ransom or something. Give them their money back, or don't take their money to begin with. There's no reason why we should have to pay the taxes that we pay. And yet we spend all of, no, we do not spend our money. They spend all of our money on other countries, and then want to tell us that we need to be okay with the fact that there's homelessness everywhere, that people who've retired can't afford to live anymore, that prices are the way they are, blah, 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 blah. If you quit shipping our money overseas, we would not have those issues here. It feels like common sense to me, but what do I know? Just some chick with a camera and a microphone, not a politician, whatever else. But the same people in power that are losing their ever-loving minds over all of this transpiring and the humanitarian aid not going to other countries, do you think that they are hurting? No. There are so many people in politics out there who get paid $100,000, $200,000 a year, yet have millions of dollars in their bank accounts, didn't write a book, didn't do anything to earn it. So where is it coming from? All the questions that I have. Oh, I just really quickly want to show you this, because Beyonce won Best Country Album last night at the Grammys. Okay. Okay. Sure. Whatever. It's fine. She looks very confused and surprised. I'm pretty sure it's because her black lesbian aunt husband back there paid him off. It's just, the Grammys is trash. The Grammys is trash. I know we have completely gone off on a completely different topic, but the Grammys is trash. I'm going to show just a little bit of this. This is Kanye West and his wife, Bianca, who, when she drops this coat, this bitch is naked, 100% naked. I'm not going to show the front. Y'all, how is that okay? Ma'am, your body is glorious. Yay for you. You are beautiful. You also have zero self-respect, zero like integrity. I don't even know. Kanye West clearly hates you. Your husband cannot love you and parade you around naked like this in front of all these people. He is your pimp. You are his hoe. This makes absolutely no sense to me for two reasons. Number one, they weren't invited to the Grammys. Kanye West didn't have any music out. Bianca, whatever the crap her name is, she's just a Kim Kardashian Temu version, the Shein version of Kim Kardashian, right? And she has nothing to do with anything. Why they're there makes absolutely no sense. And I'm sure Kanye is going to say this is supposed to be a political statement, a statement of how far we've fallen and how women don't have any modesty or class or whatever else anymore. Because that's how Kanye likes to pretend he is some, deep thinking, whatever kind of dude. You're trash, Kanye West. Like, at the end of the day, you are absolutely trash. This woman is completely naked. There is not a thong covering. I can see the line of the vagina. Like, I can see where it would spread if she did a split. Like, you can see everything. If she had a nipple hair, we'd be able to see it because you can see everything. She is smooth as all get out everywhere. That's a lot of waxing. But the fact of the matter is that they thought this was okay, number one. And number two, they let it happen for way too long. Security should have tackled that ass immediately and covered her up, because you know who's watching the Grammys? Unfortunately, children, dumbass parents who let their children watch the Grammys because the Grammys are, Satan's playground at this point. But this is not something that needs to be on mainstream media. And I'm just as guilty as the rest of them, because you got TMZ running with it, Entertainment Tonight running with it, everybody running with it and showing it off and whatever else. I'm not doing that. I'm not putting the picture up. I showed you the back. I didn't mean to get to the butt crack, but I didn't move the thing fast enough. But either way, this is trashy behavior. If I decided right now that I wanted to step out of my car and just birthday suit the hell out of this place, you know what happened? I would immediately be thrown in the back of a cop car and arrested for indecent exposure and dragged off to jail, where they would call my husband and say she needs mental help because this dumbass was walking around naked in the middle of the streets. Like, who does that? Yet here, it's what we do at the Grammys, y'all. 2025. So that's trash, and it's just, ugh. I hope she's drugged. That's the only way I could see that being okay. Because what woman with even an ounce of self-respect would let her husband, number one, or want to be married to a guy like that, number two, ew. But just, that is not self-esteem, and that is not confidence. Before anybody says, oh my gosh, she's so confident because she's able to stand there naked like that. If you had confidence, you'd stay covered up. That is not confidence. That is the least amount of self-esteem I've ever seen in a human being in my entire life. So, just, ugh. Again, amazing body. Get it, girl, but get it somewhere else and keep it covered. Like, too far. Way too far. Okay, that's all. We're going to do more stuff tomorrow because it's been an hour because I run my mouth a lot and my phone got messed up because of phone calls, because Apple sucks. Don't do it if you don't have to. Stick with Android. Android for life. That's it for now. I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to go call my kid back and see what she wants. I'm sure it's asking if she can go to get coffee or something. Anyway, I love you. Thank you for being here. We will have more conversations again tomorrow because we need to go over the... I want to read this to you, make sure I do this right. We need to go over from UN.org Development, the Population Division, Department of Economic and Social Affairs, United Nations Secretariat, Replacement Migration, 177-page UN report. It's kind of a big deal. So we will do that tomorrow because that's a big deal. Oh, side note before we leave, just real quick, Panama's president has ended the country's Panama Canal deal with China immediately following a meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. We're just going to keep winning. Trump got in the White House and it's win, win, win all day long. So there's that. I love y'all. Have a fabulous rest of your Monday, my dudes. And I will see you guys again tomorrow at some point. I don't know when, but it'll happen tomorrow. Have a good night. Goodbye.